Welcome, everyone. Welcome on behalf of our Prospect Plus team. Some of my colleagues are here with us today. Today is all about replicating what we have learned from our mentors and what our participants could experience during the peer learning program that we offer. Prospect Plus is a project where we connect 200 local authorities, public authorities, with those who have experience in innovative financing instruments, meaning those financing options that are not traditional subsidies, because as probably many of you know, and if not, then you need to know that traditional subsidies are running out. And according to the European Commission's estimates, because of the scale of the climate challenge and the resulting energy transformation, we are looking at maximum 30%, 25-30% that public funding will be able to cover. So cities, public authorities, regions need to start looking elsewhere. And we are promoting those other options, which are already available, but not commonly known in many places yet. And today we have three of our most experienced mentors who have worked with many public authorities across Europe over a few years right now. And they have shared their great, very interesting experience with some of these instruments. We will focus today on talking about EPC, so energy performance contracting. You might also know it as working with ESCOs. Sometimes they are called ESCO projects. We'll talk a bit about soft loans, blended finance, so basically a mix of some of these options in one project. And we will talk about renewable energy communities. So the floor is today belongs to our mentors. We will have time for questions. Please do feel free to write all the questions in the chat during the presentations. After each presentation, we will have a few minutes for immediate questions. And then at the end of the webinar, we will also have a slot for Q&A and for discussion. So you can also keep your questions for that. My name is Sylwia Słomek. I work for Eurocities and I'm part of the Prospect Plus team. We, apart from the peer learning program, also encourage you to participate in policy dialogue, policy consultations, so that resulting from this webinar, we also understand your attitudes to non-traditional funding and financing options, and we can then pass on what you believe is needed to pass on to decision makers when we prepare our final recommendations. So let's start. I would like to welcome Megan, Miguel, and Marco today, and we will start from Megan, who has massive experience with working with ESCOs and coordinating, preparing EPC projects. Megan, the floor is yours, or the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Sylwia. Good morning to everyone. Let me just get my screen going here. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Megan Janak. I work on project management for the Energy Agency of Upper Austria. We are a regional energy agency. And as Sylwia has mentioned, we, over the last 3 decades in the region of Upper Austria, we have supported over 300 energy performance contracting projects. And I will share some of our experience and lessons learned regarding energy performance contracting and how projects are developed and implemented in Upper Austria. So our agency, the Energiesparverband, we are, as I mentioned, a regional energy agency. We're the central institution for all topics regarding sustainable energy, renewables, and energy efficiency in Upper Austria. We were founded in the early 90s, so we have a few decades behind us of work in our region. And we're a public independent organization, and our day-to-day work really is working on the energy transition, achieving climate neutrality in all sectors in the region of Upper Austria. We offer services to households, companies, and the public sector. And we really, the focus of our work is on advice and information. We manage some funding programs. We encourage networking between our local and regional actors, a lot of training, seminars, mentoring on these types of programs, as much in Upper Austria as then through Prospect Plus and other activities beyond our borders. To give you an idea of where we're situated, so Upper Austria, you see here on the map, is one of the 9 Austrian regions. The capital is the city of Linz, with a bit over 200,000 inhabitants. And the population of the region, the global population, is 1.5 million, just to give you an idea. So you can compare a bit with your own cities and regions. And this population of 1.5 million is divided throughout 400 municipalities. So we have sides to Upper Austria where we're a very industrial region. We're the industrial heart of Austria, and we are responsible for 25% of the country's industrial. So there is a large amount of energy consumption that is manufacturing and industry. As I said, 50% of the population in small rural municipalities of just a
Is it only me or it's
few that
was that okay for everyone? Can you just
No, I'm
no.
also not
No.
hearing
Megan, I think your internet is a little bit slow. It's never perfect, no? 2024, and it's never perfect.
have an exact.
Megan, we couldn't hear you for a second. So maybe while Megan is coming back, sorting out her internet connection.
Off my microphone.
Yeah, Megan, can you hear us?
Hear you now.
Maybe you could try to reconnect because you're.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm in the office with our regular internet connection, so I don't know what the issue is.
Now it seems okay. Let's try it now.
Yeah, it'll be difficult.
Okay, so a short, quick change of plan. Hopefully Megan will sort out her internet connection. And what we will do is I will tell you very quickly what EPC actually is. And then we will see if we will jump over to Miguel and then Megan comes back. Could you give me a thumbs up if you already know what EPC is? So energy performance contracting is a mechanism, something similar to PPP, where the public authority, or actually the client, because it doesn't have to be the public authority, doesn't have to look for money on their own, doesn't have to invest their own budget into, for example, retrofitting of public buildings or installing solar collectors, photovoltaic installations on public buildings, or actually multi-family buildings, which Miguel will also talk about. The capital, the money comes from an ESCO, a private partner, which would usually take a loan from a bank, depending on how much capital they actually do have at hand. And why is it so interesting? Because this allows local authorities to protect their budget. You don't have to pay until you see the results. You pass on both technical and financial risk onto the ESCO. And because of that, of course, the ESCO expects to have some profit. So there is an additional fee compared to traditional subsidies. But then for you, it means you don't have to worry about the risks, the operations. You only pay from the savings or the profit that you get through the renewable energy installations or energy efficiency measures. And you pay only when you see that it actually works. And at the end of the contract, you start benefiting from all of the savings or all the profits. What's important to remember is that this is a partnership. An ESCO is your partner, not your contractor, and you have to be more open, really have a dialogue with them because they help you, but also they are very dependent on you. Short contracts when you want to get rid of an ESCO as soon as possible is therefore not an ideal option because that's not what partnership is all about. But the most important thing to consider for you as you come from many different countries in Europe is that there are different regulations in different countries. So you need to know what's possible in your country. How does EPC projects, how do EPC projects impact the municipal debt level, for example? That's something to be checked to understand whether it's the most optimal solution for you. Megan, are you back? I think Megan still has problems, so let's try with Miguel. Miguel, maybe you can start also from the component where you have worked with ESCOs and you have tested the EPC approach.
Okay, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. Is it okay? Yeah.
Yes, it's good.
Okay, perfect. So I will share my my presentation. So, well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this replication webinar within the Prospect Plus initiative, where I have had the pleasure to participate in in 2 cycles supporting cities on identifying how to implement and how to replicate some of the mechanisms that we have implemented in some of the projects in which I have had the opportunity to participate. For example, this one, which is Urban, that I will be presenting today. So my name is Miguel Ángel García. I work as innovation consultant at Barrabés.biz, which is a consultancy company in Spain, where we are basically focused on supporting innovation processes in both public and private entities. And also I work as associate professor at the University of Valladolid, where I'm teaching in the architecture degree about energy efficiency and sustainable construction. And before that, I was working for a research center here also in Valladolid, where I had the opportunity to coordinate this project, which was Remo Urban, that was an Horizon 2020 funded project funded by the European Commission, where we worked on implementing strategies and developing new models in order to transform some European cities into smarter and more sustainable environments, especially understanding and defining how some of these technologies, approaches, business models could be replicated in other environments in order to ensure that this transformation strategy was replicable. So here you can find some general information about the project. The project started in 2015 and it ended in 2021. And basically we were working in 5 European cities, 3 of them as lighthouse cities where we directly implemented some actions, and 2 other follower cities that developed replication plans and replication strategies in order to understand how these solutions, as I said before, could be replicated. The project was coordinated by CARTIF, the research center where I was working for, and we were working with a consortium of 22 partners across Europe, working on developing these solutions and implementing and testing these solutions in these 5 cities. As I said, our main goal was to develop a replicable model, what we called the urban regeneration model, in order to transform or to understand how existing cities can be transformed into smarter and more sustainable places. And for that, we were working on 3 main pillars that we integrated in this urban regeneration model, that were these 3 pillars that you can see here. So how to integrate solutions in order to transform existing districts into low energy districts, which was implementing somehow the concept of zero energy districts, which was somehow the origin of the current trend that we are seeing with the positive energy districts, and also integrating aspects related to sustainable urban mobility, and also the cross-cutting integration of information and communication technologies in order to support these developments. We worked on 3 lighthouse cities, the city of Valladolid here in Spain, which is now one of the cities of the mission cities of this initiative that, well, probably you are aware of, where the European Commission is supporting 112 cities in order to become climate neutral by 2030 as lighthouses, in order to, well, support other cities to do so by 2050, which is the main objective for Europe in order to decarbonize the economy by 2050. So we worked with Valladolid, and also we worked with the cities of Nottingham in UK and the city of Tepebasi in Turkey, where we implemented some solutions as those that you can see here, and I will focus, well, mainly on those in Valladolid, where you can see some well, energy renovation actions that we implemented in some of these districts, and also some of the mobility actions where we worked on developing solutions for sustainable mobility, mainly focused on electromobility for both public and private transportation. So deploying well, charging infrastructures and management procedures for these charging infrastructures. And then we had the 2 follower cities, the city of Segan in Belgium and the city of Miskolc in Hungary, that, well, as I said before, they were working on identifying how these replication strategies could work in these cities in order to ensure that replication was actually a core component of the model that we were generating. So in total, we worked on, well, retrofitting 64,000 square meters of conditioned area in the buildings that we retrofitted in these 3 cities. We deployed 22 electric buses and 73 alternative fueled vehicles, also, well, charging points for both, as I said before, public and private transportation, with these outcomes that you can see here in terms of energy savings, renewable energy production, and also reduction of CO2 emissions to the atmosphere. And most importantly, also, we involved well, a lot of initiatives, and especially the citizens in these transformation strategies. We worked in total, or we benefited somehow in total 20,000 citizens in these 3 cities with the actions that we implemented, not only the buildings, but also and especially in the transportation sector, where the impact was higher because we were benefiting many citizens in these cities. And also we contributed to, well, several initiatives and contributed also to the creation and sustainment of the Lighthouse Projects collaboration that was somehow the initiative that, well, then was transferred and was the origin of Scalable Cities, which is the initiative where all the Lighthouse projects are collaborating in order to, well, catalyze knowledge and to ensure that this knowledge is distributed across other cities and other partners. So this is the model that we created. That was a 3-dimensional model in which we integrated, well, 3 main elements. First, the priority areas or the domains in which we were working, developing technologies and solutions to be implemented in the cities. As I said before, in terms of mobility, in terms of well, sustainable buildings, and then ICTs. And then we integrated this with the different phases that have to be covered in order to implement these transformation strategies. So basically the design of the strategy, the design of the actions, the implementation and the assessment, providing procedures and guidelines in order to, well, define how these different phases can be implemented in order to ensure this transformation. And then crossing this with the enabling frameworks that somehow ensure the possibility of implementing all these phases and for all these different domains in which we were working, which were basically defining the management procedures. So how to improve management and collaboration across the different actors, public and private. Then evaluation procedures in order to define indicators and mechanisms to ensure the evaluation across the phases, to support not only the final assessment, but also support the design, the evaluation of alternatives, and so on. And finally, and very importantly, the finance. So how to finance all this and how to finance the implementation of these technologies and these solutions in the cities. So, we produced in order to develop this model with always the focus on replication. We developed a set of different tools. You can find some information about these tools on the project's website, and also some of the documents that we produced, where we integrated some of these elements of the model in order to provide all these guidelines and all these supports in order to identify how to replicate technologies, how to evaluate these solutions, which are the costs related to the implementation of these technologies as a basis also for replication. So a set of different tools and instruments in order to support this replication and ensure this replication. We will share the presentation with you, so you will have the opportunity to have a look at all these different tools, as well as the different information packages that we produced, and the different materials and guidelines that we also produced, where we captured at the end of the project all the lessons learned and all these guidelines and toolkits in order to ensure replication. But now focusing on the case of Valladolid, and especially how it was implemented and financed. As I said before, Valladolid is one of the mission cities, and participated as lighthouse city in the project with this district that you can see here. This is it was a district that was built in the 60s with 24 a bit more of 24,000 square meters of conditioned area, with a total of 400 dwellings. The property structure was private, so these are multifamily buildings, and all these dwellings were private, which was one of the elements and one of the challenges of this project to be implemented, because we had to work with all these 400 families in order to ensure their involvement in the project and the acceptation of the project. These buildings had several issues in terms of comfort conditions and in terms of really high energy consumption, but the good thing is that they were connected to an existing district heating. So they had a district heating that was connected to all these 20 blocks, 20 buildings that are 19 blocks and plus one tower, the one that you can see here, and all them were connected to a district heating network. This was beneficial in the sense that as they were connected, they had, in terms of a structure, they had an association that was managing the district heating. So they were associated, all these communities, all these owners were associated in a community that was managing the district heating and was deciding over the actions to be implemented at the level of the district heating. So they could decide whether changing the systems, whether improving the actions at this community level, with the mechanisms in order to vote and in order to decide. But then they had a second level. They had the level at the building, at the different buildings. So we had also 20 different communities that had the decision over the actions to be implemented in the buildings. And this was also another challenge, because in terms of the implementation, usually it is easier to convince about actions related to the active systems, where the return of investment is much lower, so in shorter periods, then let's say the effect of the actions is perhaps more easily to be perceived, while the actions in the passive elements in the envelope in order to reduce the demand are usually more difficult to be implemented. So in the way of negotiating with them, of designing the project with them, the part related to the active technologies, to the district heating, was much easier to discuss than the part related to the passive elements, to the envelope. Well, here you can see the different buildings. These are the blocks, also the tower, and here you can see some of the of the problems they had. For example, the thermal breaches in the envelope because there was not continuity in terms of insulation in the walls, and also they had very high levels of infiltration, uncontrolled infiltration, due to constructive problems in the envelope as well. So our main actions were in line of reducing the energy demand by insulating the envelope, so working on the facades, the balconies, and also the roofs, then reducing the energy consumption by renovating the district heating, and also with an action in order to change the lighting systems only in the common areas, and then finally to deploy renewable energy sources in order to contribute with biomass and with solar energy in order to decarbonize the heating system. So in terms of the reduction of the demand, we implemented an external insulation system, an ethics solution in order to improve the performance of the envelope. Here you can see the different levels that the initial status that we had, the one requested by the regulation at that moment in Spain, and then the scenario with the retrofitting. And here you can see some pictures of how it was implemented with this external insulation. For example, here in the tower, which is a quite relevant and really recognized building in Valladolid. So also it was quite important to give it a special recognition, as I will explain later. Here you can see also the actions on, for example, the balconies. These were originally open balconies, but then most of them closed them in order to add this space to the living room. So we decided to insulate this part that was not insulated. So this improved a lot the conditions in this area. Here more pictures about the insulation, and same in the roofs. In the roofs we had different systems. We had a flat roof in the tower, and then we had these roofs in the blocks. So we implemented different solutions as this projected insulation, or in the tower this kind of roof or flat roof with the insulation material. And with that, we achieved the elimination of the thermal breaches, or the reduction, the considerably reduction of the thermal breaches in the envelope, as you can see here in the post retrofitting status. And this also allowed the improvement of the comfort conditions. As I said, comfort was one of the main issues in these buildings. So here you can see the range of temperatures that we had before the actions, and then the range of temperatures after for the month of December, which as you can see is in the range of comfort conditions. So they benefited, and they immediately noticed the improvement when we started insulating the buildings, and same for the blocks. And also in terms of the lighting, as I said before, we also changed the lighting system, also implementing detectors in these areas in order to reduce the consumption. And then in terms of the district heating, we completely renovated the district heating system. We changed the existing systems that were based on gas oil, and we changed into a biomass-based system. So we changed the boilers, and we reduced in a 25% the peak power that was required, because they beyond the insulation conditions that they were lacking before the intervention, they also were operating with overheated water in the system. So we completely changed the system in order to reduce also the distribution temperature, in order to reduce also the losses, and also the installed peak power. So it was reduced, and we also installed the variable flow system, and in order to also reduce the consumption. We renovated the whole distribution system because we were changing the distribution temperature, and also the distribution system that they had was completely lacking insulation or any kind of detection system for the leakages. So we implemented a new distribution system with insulation and also with this leakages detection system in order to prevent and to anticipate any kind of problem. And also we centralized the district heating, the domestic hot water, because before the intervention they had the heating system was centralized, but not in the case of the domestic hot water. So they had individual systems. Some of them they had butane, others they had natural gas or electricity. So we took advantage of the intervention in order to centralize the domestic hot water and to connect it to the district heating network. This was a volunteer, or an option for the dwelling owners. So it was not mandatory for them. They could decide whether connecting or not. But most of them decided to connect. Not most of them at the beginning, but when they realized about the benefits, they started to connect. And then we implemented many systems in order to monitor the energy and to also empower them to control their energy consumption, because before the intervention they had no control. There were not any kind of monitoring system for the consumption, and also the distribution system within the buildings it is in columns, not per flat. So this means that all the radiators were connected in columns, so it was impossible to install individual counters for the heating system. So we installed this these heat allocator units in the radiators, so they could monitor the consumption in the radiators, and also we installed these thermostatic valves so that they could control the temperature within their different spaces. This accompanied by the change in the way on how the invoices were distributed, because before they were paying all the same, they had a flat rate and they were paying all the same for the energy. But then with the installation of the heat allocator units and also the thermostatic valves, they changed into individual billing system. So with the individual billing system, the consumption was considerably reduced, because they were aware about how much they were consuming and they were paying based on what they were consuming. So they started to really use the thermostatic valves on a more efficient way, and the consumption was really considerable. So, here you can see the reduction in terms of the savings, and then in terms of the renewable energy sources, as I said, we changed the system into biomass, and then also we implemented in this facade also as a recognizable element this photovoltaic facade in the tower, so that they could contribute also with the production of photovoltaics to the systems. Given the fact that by that time the regulation in Spain was not so, let's say, beneficial in terms of the model in order to use this energy for electricity, they decided to connect this electricity production to the heating system. So they had a interchanger, and with this electricity that was produced, they were contributing to heating the storage that they had in the tower. Now they are thinking of changing and also of improving by installing more photovoltaics in other parts of the district in order to increase the renewable production and to go for other models that could benefit them more in terms of making profit of this energy that they are producing. So here you can see this photovoltaic facade that was implemented. And the project, as I said before, was really challenging in terms of in terms of the property structure that we had. As I said before, we had to negotiate with both and to work with both the association that they had, the community that was deciding over the district heating, and then the different communities that they had at building level. The process was really long and it was really intense, and we had to implement many mechanisms in order to ensure the participation of the different owners, their contribution also in terms of contributing to co-design some of the actions, and this was a very important part of the project, and also to co-design not only the actions but also the financial model. So we had to work with them in order to understand and to provide the best combination of financing mechanisms for them in order to ensure the implementation. So one of the actions that we carried out, it was to organize well, a lot of meetings and sessions with them with the involvement of the municipality, and this was essential, municipality representatives. So here you can see the councillor of urbanism and also the director by that moment of the housing company in Valladolid, and also some members of the innovation agency of the municipality that were in contact always with the owners in order to support them and to provide this well, support to the project from the municipal perspective, making them understand it that the municipality was really well supporting them in this intervention, even though these are private buildings, but well, supporting as it benefits the city in terms of contributing to the goals of decarbonization. Also, it was very important to work on the communication, also understanding the kind of population that we had there, because at the beginning we started working with like well, digital tools. We developed a website in local language for them to make questions, but then we realized that most of the people, they were not using that tools because well, the average age in the district is quite high. So we had to change our strategy, and we had to work on producing other sort of materials in order to communicate in printed materials, also door by door, in order to explain the project, to answer some questions, and to create this more direct connection with them in order to ensure this well, dialogue with all the owners. And this was also accompanied by a set of actions in order to ensure this dialogue and this collaboration and co-design in some of the elements. For most of them, well, we had the conditions of the project, of the funding of the European Commission, so it was quite limited, but for some others, we had the possibility in order to co-design with them some of the actions, for example, the decision of some of the strategies, or the decision about how to combine the different well, financing mechanisms. So we implemented a consulting office in the district in order to solve all the doubts they had. We developed a follow-up commission where we invited all those who wanted to be part of that to participate. We organized many meetings at community level, at district heating community level, but also at building community level in order to explain and to help them understanding the different processes. And also we had to provide some external advice. So we had to provide them with an external technical support, and also an external lawyer that they decided who they wanted them to be. So they proposed us to some engineers and also some lawyers to support them, and we brought them to the district in order to help them on understanding the project and ensuring the implementation of the project. And a key element was the how to finance all this and how to pay all this. As we said before, here we had a combination of different instruments that we integrated in the best possible way in order to benefit the owners as much as possible. So we had the part coming from the Commission, the public funds that were covering approximately the 75% of the cost. What was really high. Also in combination with some municipal grants that the municipality, they decided to provide in order to support the project as well. So in total, with this public contribution, we had this 75%, and then for the 25% remaining, we had to establish mechanisms in order to support the owners on financing this, implementing the financing that was was required. In total, I think it was like approximately 10,000 euros per dwelling that they had to pay. The 75% was covered by these public funds, so approximately they had to pay it was a bit more than 10,000. So in total, they had to pay like 3,000 euros for the interventions. This private contribution. So what we did for that part, it was to split this part into two different elements. One was the EPC, the energy performance contracting with an ESCO company, and then the second was a soft loan that was negotiated with a private bank in order to support paying this part of the financing. Regarding the energy performance contracting, as Silvia has said before, basically energy performance contracting it is about externalizing the risks. So it's about receiving support from an external entity, in this case, the energy services company, that is providing this initial investment that is required, and that they are establishing this collaboration in the form of a contract, so that they supply the energy over the duration of the contract. So they commit to supply the energy, and then they manage the systems, and they operate the systems in the best possible way, so that so to ensure that at the end the model is beneficial for all the parties, for the owners, and also for the ESCO company, because at the end they have to make the profit. So in that sense, Veolia was the ESCO company that was participating in the project, and they offered some services in their contract which covered the energy supply. So all the supply of the thermal energy by operating the district heating network based on biomass, and also the photovoltaics that were connected to these systems. And also they provided the operations and the maintenance. So they took over the maintenance. And also they provided a total warranty, what means covering all the problems and all the issues appearing in the district for the duration of the contract. The total duration of the contract was negotiated for 18 years. It was 3 years in the framework of the project, plus 15 years after the end of the project. And during these 18 years, the ESCO company is providing these services, the energy supply, and also is in charge of the operation, the maintenance, and the total warranty over the systems. What means that if there is a problem with a boiler in year 17, they change the boiler, and then at the end of the contract, the owners, they have a totally new boiler that is covered by the contract. So meaning that they can continue and they can negotiate a new contract with the same company, or they can go for a different company, but they have a renovated system. So they offered all this, and also they offered the financial part, and that was finally implemented not directly by them, but also facilitated by them, and they implemented this model. As we also said before, basically the way in which it operates is, as I said, is about externalizing risks and about paying the investment with the savings. So it means that the ESCO company takes over this initial investment, and they recover this investment with the savings that they have, in the way that at the end of the project, all these savings, they go to the owners, but during the contract, these savings are used in order to pay the investment. In this case, they were paying a flat rate before the intervention. All the owners were paying the same, and we had to build a model in which they were still paying the same, at least at the beginning, before they decided to go into the individual billing system. But we had to find a model defining the duration of the contract and the different elements, so that they would keep the same amount that they were paying before the intervention. And this was one of the issues of the negotiation, and actually it was one of the issues that made them voting no at the beginning, because there was a really slight increase of the monthly fee that they were paying. It was about 1 or 2 euros, no more. But they said no, because it was a condition for them to, at least at the beginning, stay paying the same. So we had to, well, again, work with them and redesign the model, extend a bit the duration of the contract, also well, revisit some of the actions so that it could fit into this model that they were expecting. So, well, this is the process in which it works, and we will listen more about EPCs now with Megan. But yeah, basically the process, well, it is about establishing this contract, then well, all the part about understanding how everything works and defining how it will work, and then the process of well, paying these investments with the savings. And as I said, in this case, well, we had all this part coming from the public investment, the European Commission, and also the municipality. In terms of the municipality, they implemented a grant for the owners. And also in that case, we had to work with them in order to, well, define the best way in order to implement this grant, because most of the, well, owners, they were retirees, and well, they had some conditions in terms of the taxation, and receiving this grant in just 1 year could well, make them changing their taxation conditions, and then, well, having like a negative effect. So the municipality negotiated with them the implementation of this grant in 2 years, in 2 different years. So they split it, this part, so that this could benefit them as well. And then for the private part, that was around 25-30%, we had this energy performance contracting, and also we had the soft loan. So they negotiated a soft loan for the community. That is something that it was not that common at that moment. Now it seems that it is getting more common, at least in Spain, that banks, they go to finance communities of owners, but at that moment it was not that common. So they negotiated with the support of the construction company, that was Acciona, and also the municipality and the different actors that we were part of the project. We helped them negotiating also with the work of the administrator of the community of owners. That was amazing, negotiating this soft loan with a private entity, a private bank, in order to have really good conditions in order to finance this remaining part. So in total, with the energy performance contract and also the payment of the loan, they were keeping the same amount of the bill that they were paying before the intervention for energy. So yeah, this is well, what it was about, and some of the lessons that we learned about how important is this combination of different instruments, and especially to implement this dialogue with the owners in order to understand and to understand how to let's say integrate all their demands and their conditions into the model to ensure the implementation of the project. In this case, it is true that we had a really high contribution from public funds, but the model can be replicated and it can be extended with different structures, reducing the part of the public funds and increasing the part of that goes into the energy performance contract or this soft loan. That are mechanisms that we are seeing more and more, along with, for example, selling energy certificates, energy savings, and this sort of things that well, we are seeing as part of well, the facilitating mechanisms in order to achieve the objectives that we have in terms of renovating our existing stock of buildings. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Miguel. You will all get the presentation and recording. I really like this project because it shows that there is a very efficient way for cities, municipalities which want to start using innovative financing instruments but are a little bit concerned or afraid still. There is an opportunity to learn, to test, right? With still using public funding, like Miguel mentioned. In this case, there was a lot of public funding involved, but there was also this element of trying something new and combining different financing instruments for various components of the same project and really working with people. Megan will talk more about EPC and also the EPC on if the connection works, yeah, an EPC on public buildings, which is a bit easier, and on EPC on private buildings always requires this understanding of what residents, taxpayers, and house owners need, educating them, really trying to find a way to meet their requirements, supporting them also through the soft loans, so really making the effort from the city side to speak to the banks on behalf of the residents. So I think it's a very interesting example and a great example of how to start when you're still not sure how to go into a full-fledged EPC project. And before I hand over to Megan, and I see we have some questions, maybe let's park these questions until the end, so we make sure we are in time. But before I hand over to Megan, I just wanted also to say that Miguel has recently been appointed Prospect Plus Innovative Financing Ambassador, so recognizing his role in promoting innovative financing and really being a fantastic mentor working with so many cities in Europe. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will go back to them. And now, Megan, hopefully it will work.
Apologies, and thank you to you, Sylvia, and to Miguel for jumping in. I'm on a complete other internet connection right now, a complete other device, so hopefully this will fix the slow bugs we're having in our office today on the internet side. So I'm not sure exactly where it cut off. So maybe I'll just go quickly through the starting, because Miguel has also just covered some of also the, through this great example that he's presented, some of the basics of the basic elements of EPC. So some of my slides I'll be able to cover more rapidly. So take two. My name is Megan Janak. I work on project management at the Energy Agency of Upper Austria. And today I am going to present some of our lessons learned and some case studies from our experience in the region of Upper Austria in supporting over 300 EPC projects over the last about 30 years. The Energy Agency of Upper Austria is a regional energy agency. We're the central institution in the field of sustainable energy. So all topics related to renewables and energy efficiency, we are the central information point for all actors in our region. Our day-to-day work really is working on driving the energy transition and achieving climate neutrality in all sectors. So we offer services to households, to companies, and also to the public sector. And the bulk of our activities and services are really energy advice, information events, fostering networking between local and regional actors, a lot of training and mentoring in the context of projects like Prospect Plus, which goes beyond our borders, but also a lot of training of the actors on range of topics related to energy in our region. To give you an idea of Upper Austria, so Upper Austria here you can see on the map, we are one of the 9 regions of Austria, and the capital is the city of Linz with a population of just over 200,000.
Megan, sorry, we can see your first slide, so maybe if you share it's not in full screen.
It's not in full screen. I see it in full screen. I see it in full screen.
Yeah, now it's still not in full screen, but now we can see the right slide.
Since I'm on a laptop device that I don't know, if I hold my
it's
slides
okay.
like this, would you be able to follow
it's okay.
more here?
It's okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Upper Austria is this red pot here. So as I was saying, the capital of Linz, we have a population in the city of about over 200,000. In the region in general, we have 1.5 million inhabitants spread over 440 municipalities. So you can compare these numbers a bit to your own region. The particularity of Upper Austria is that we have this dual, we're a very industrial region. We're the industrial heartland of Austria, and we produce 25% of the country's industrial exports. So we also we work with manufacturing companies who are also working on increasing their energy efficiency and the uptake of renewables. But 50% of the population live in small municipalities of just a few thousand inhabitants. So we also support these over 400 municipalities who are on tight resources in regards to the number of staff and the available budget, and have a lot of public services still that they need to offer on their territory. And this is where EPC is also very interesting in our region for such municipalities who can implement energy efficiency measures without using their own budget, as Silvia and Miguel have mentioned. So Upper Austria has quite a history of energy performance contracting. There's been a regional program that was started back in 1998 to support the market development of EPC. So it's a twofold approach where the main part of this program is facilitation services by our energy agency, where we support the clients and the ESCO companies, and we guide them through the development of their projects, the development of their contracts. And there's also a financial support from the regional government for projects who use the EPC model. This small amount of financial support doesn't make a project that isn't financially feasible will not become feasible because of this support. It really just is the regional government's way of showing that EPC is a trusted and good mechanism, and that if it is used, they will offer a small financial incentive to show that they also support this type of innovative financing. So since the end of the 1990s, there's been over 300 contracting projects in our region, about half of them in municipalities, but also half in companies and institutions, which shows that this type of model is not only interesting for public infrastructure, but is also interesting for private companies who will use EPC as an investment model in order to hold their capital and their funds available for other types of internal projects, whether it's R&D or extensions of their services or and products. So we've had projects mostly in the areas of street lighting, refurbishment, EPC in buildings and industry, renewable heat contracting. And we've triggered over EPC has triggered over €100 million investments in our region. We have about 30 ESCOs that are active or have done EPC projects in our region, but it didn't start out this way. So for all the participants in the room that are at the very starting, saying, I don't know where the ESCOs are. Do we even have ESCOs? In Upper Austria, it was also very slow at the starting. There were not a lot of ESCOs available. There was not a lot of trust in this model. And that's where the facilitation service, with a lot of efforts on the side of the energy agency, took really the role of explaining and coaching and guiding the first projects to get on foot. And with time, EPC has now found its place in the portfolio of sustainable energy solutions and is readily used throughout the region. So what is energy performance contracting? You've gotten a drift also from Silvia and Miguel's explanations. So it's a contractual arrangement between a client, so a municipality or a company, and a service provider, which we call an ESCO or an energy service company. The ESCO will typically finance and implement energy investments, so energy saving measures or the investment of an energy system. There's a variety of, we say they typically finance and implement, but there's a variety of different ways how the financing can take place. depending on whether the client or the ESCO can get the better rate at the banks, for example. So this is also flexible, and there's many options available. The ESCO then guarantees the energy savings in the contract, and they have the risk. They take on the risk, as Miguel has mentioned. They take on the technical risk and the financial risk of the projects, and they guarantee the savings in the contract. The investments and the capital costs, or part of the costs, for example, also referring to Miguel's project, where part of the costs were covered by EPC and the others by other financing mechanisms. The investments and capital costs are covered by the annual cost savings that occur through the energy efficiency measures. Typically, this EPC is especially interesting for projects that have very high energy savings potentials, and therefore also shorter payback times. So we see contract durations for streetlight refurbishment of around 5 or 7 years, up to contracts of 15 or 18, maximum 20 years for buildings and other types of heating installations. And it's a contracting is a financing and operation model. So the ESCO is responsible, since they guarantee the amount of savings achieved. They also operate the systems, maintain the systems, and make sure that they are running optimally, and that the energy efficiency that is guaranteed in the contract is achieved throughout the complete of the contract duration. So these are the 2 points that really makes EPC different from other financing instruments. So number one is these contractually guaranteed savings. You, as a client, have the guarantee in your contract that a technical level of energy efficiency will be achieved throughout the duration of the contract. And there's a guarantee mechanism in the contract that is a financial consequence for the ESCO if these savings are not achieved. There's different ways how this guarantee can be implemented. For example, the client could withhold or reduce their payments to the ESCO to compensate for unachieved savings. There can also be a bank guarantee from the ESCO, which is handed over to the client at the starting of the contract. So if savings are not achieved, the client can go to the bank independently and very easily access part of that bank guarantee directly from the bank to compensate for a lacking of savings. We've also seen projects where the ESCO is under the obligation to adjust or replace the equipment until savings are achieved at their cost. Other than these 2 aspects, EPC can take many forms, and it can be adapted to the legal, economic, and social context of each of your regions. So this might be a difficult part when you see certain regulatory or legal barriers in your region, how to get by these barriers. But if you work on it and you look at it, there usually would be a way to work with these barriers or adapt the EPC contracts or form of the project to be suitable for your region as well. So other aspects of EPC projects, so things like who finances the project, or where the money exactly comes from, who performs the audit or designs the system, who does the maintenance work, big project, small project, if there's extra savings that are achieved throughout the project. So if the building users are very well informed and have a high level of awareness and change their behavior, and therefore the building overall requires less energy throughout the years of the contract, who saves and gains from these extra savings achieved, for example, can be put in the contract. The ESCO fees and the billing schedules, these are all elements that can be adapted and can be discussed between the ESCO and the client while developing a project. This is a bit of a different show of something Miguel has also presented, where it's sort of how does the energy performance contracting work along the contract period or along the project. So let's take an easy example of a municipality doing the refurbishment of their street lighting system to very efficient LED technology. So before their system was quite old, they had a high level of energy use and high energy costs. They discuss with an ESCO, decide that the ESCO will refurbish their lighting system. The ESCO designs the system and starts and implements the measures. So the measures that are implemented increase the energy efficiency of the system, and the level that you see here, the light blue and dark blue, represents the amount of energy savings and therefore the cost savings that are involved through this refurbishment project. Once the system has been completely refurbished and is operating, this is where the contract starts. And throughout the duration of the contract, the blue section, which is the cost savings that are achieved, are used by the ESCO to refinance the capital and investment costs. There can be two ways of, some municipalities would like to already benefit from some of these savings from the start. So they discuss with the ESCO to already benefit from a reduction of their electricity costs right at the starting of the contract period. This frees up some of their budget for other types of projects. In this case, then the contract duration might last a few years longer until the ESCO then is able to refinance the full of the project. Or so that's if the municipality wants to already benefit from cost savings right at the starting. If not, the municipality continues paying the same amount for their electricity even after the refurbishment's taken place, and the difference between the earlier cost savings and the earlier cost energy price and the actual energy costs is what the ESCO uses to reimburse the project. At the end of the contract period, the street lighting is under the ownership of the municipality. The municipality then benefits from the full amount of energy reductions, and their electricity costs are reduced for the future after EPC has then ended. I'll bring you here just step by step through the development of an EPC project based on the phases in Upper Austria. So in your regions, some of these might be a little different, but in Upper Austria, so the first step of a project is really the internal preparation phase of a municipality or of a company. So the client really has to do their homework of getting a good idea of an overview of their energy flows, their energy consumption, understanding what they want as a project, and with what type of project they're then approaching the ESCOs. They will then approach, we recommend that they approach two or three ESCOs who will then look at this data and at the large lines of the project and do a rough analysis. In Upper Austria, this rough analysis is usually free of charge. So the ESCO will do a general calculation of the feasibility, the technical and financial feasibility of the project, and will present this then to the client. Potentially, this is also where a tender will need to be done, depending on your public procurement rules. And the client then, after receiving these rough analysis, will decide in favor or against of the project. Maybe they'll decide to not use EPC and to look at other financing mechanisms. But if they decide, yes, okay, this seems good for us, this works for our project and for our organization, then they will select the ESCO based on these rough analysis, these offers from the ESCOs. Once the ESCO has been selected, this is where then both parties work together going through the steps of the detailed analysis. So, of course, you're working with an ESCO because they're bringing on the technical expertise for the development, design, and implementation of this project. So in the detailed analysis, the ESCO will really develop the details, the technical planning of the project, and will present you how they would what type of technical measures they would implement in which way. And this is also the discussion of what specifications you would like to have, of course, in the infrastructure. Once the technical planning has been closed, then you can move on to developing the contract and discussing about the contract details. This is, again, requires for EPC a lot of transparency and a lot of partnership between both parties, between the ESCOs and the clients. We really say that EPC is a long-term partnership. So you'll be working with this ESCO throughout the whole contract duration, and at the same time, the ESCO will be working with you. So transparency and openness and trust is really the basics for a good and successful EPC project. You'll discuss out the details of the contract and sign the contract. Once the contract is signed, the ESCO will start implementing the measures over the course of weeks, months, or over the course of a year, depending on the project, of course. And once the measures have been implemented and the systems are operational, the contract duration starts. And from there on, the system will be operating, will be maintained, and it's the contracting rate. So it's a flow of money then from the ESCO from the client to the ESCO for over the duration of the contract. Since I assume that most of you watching here today would be on the client's side of an EPC project, I've just brought a slide with some learnings from our experience from our facilitation service. What are key success factors to look for and to work on from the client side? So first is we can't stress enough how proper internal preparation is key. So really do your homework first and make sure you understand your data and that you know also what you would like to get out of this project. In a building, for example, also specifications like the color of the lighting in the office spaces or the temperature of the rooms in the building. These are specifications that will also affect not only your well-being in the building afterwards, but it also affects the energy efficiency levels. Of course, if a room is heated 2 degrees more, you need that amount more energy to heat your rooms, and you need to make sure that the calculations the ESCO is the ESCO's calculations are taking into account really the true use of the most probable use of the building afterwards. So really the exact definition of your specifications and requirements, try to bring these into the project as early on as possible. Also elements like if you would like to involve your own staff, this is in municipalities often a topic. So they have a bit of a worry that the ESCO will come in and will take away tasks or work from some of their employees. And it's possible to integrate this into an EPC project where your staff will still do some of the maintenance works or work with the ESCO during the contract duration. If possible, compare ESCOs. Try to gather more than one offer, and select the right ESCO, where the right ESCO is not always the one with the lowest price. It's also not always the one that's offering the highest level of energy savings. It's important to look and see what, like I was saying, what specifications were used to calculate those energy savings. So the right ESCO is one that you feel confident about, that has the technical, the financial, and the legal knowledge for implementing this type of project. In the best case, they already have other successful projects that they can present and use as good practices. And they have the openness and the transparency to develop this project with you and develop the contract with you. Before last point would be to really understand the contract. This is something you're signing and it will be long-term. We don't enjoy working with standard contracts, and we don't recommend either trying to find a template and using that template one-to-one. Of course, these templates that we can find online are very helpful if you're at the starting of your ESCO EPC learning process. to see, how a contract could be built up, what type of content should be in a contract. And it's very important as a client that you really understand the elements of the contract and that they're discussed between the client and the ESCO. So we've seen contracts in our region of 3 pages all the way up to 30 pages. It's not necessarily the length that counts, it's the content and the clarity of the content and your understanding of the content. And then also, if you're able to do training or information awareness of the users of the system during the project, so whether it's the building users or your municipal staff that is doing the maintenance of the lighting, public lighting system, or whoever is working with the system afterwards, if you can involve them in the project and increase their awareness, it contributes to the overall success and outcome of a project. If you have access to advice and support from a third party, sort of like an energy agency or another type of regional development organization in your region who can offer you external third party support in developing your project, it can maybe contribute to increasing your trust and your confidence moving on through the project, to have that extra bit of advice and helping hand. I brought some examples with me. I tried to choose some examples with different types of public and private infrastructure. So it just to give sort of an overview. One is the street lighting refurbishment in the city, the village of Bad Schalachbach in Upper Austria. So Bad Schalachbach is a well-known health resort with a spa, wellness center, a cure center, and they're committed to climate protection. They decided to do a comprehensive refurbishment of their public lighting system. It was 790 lighting points, and it was refurbished to high efficiency LED. They reduced the installed capacity by more than 50%, from 55 kilowatts total installed capacity to 23. And it was an overall investment of 350,000 euro. What's interesting with this project is the local electrician who had been local electrician in the city for, I think his father owned the company and then he took over the company. He was very attached to his community. He decided to actually step up to the plate and to be an ESCO, although that wasn't something he had ever done before. And this was his first EPC project in his own village as the local electrician. And we supported him a lot in moving in towards offering this type of service and how to be an ESCO for this type of project. The contract duration is 10 years, and the 58% of electricity cost savings were achieved. There was also, you can see here that by street lighting refurbishment, something that's very interesting to take into account is not only the electricity cost savings, but also to look at your maintenance cost savings, which sometimes in this case were equal in their value, in their annual cost values. So the old lighting systems required much more maintenance and from the municipality, and therefore also a lot of costs in changing the bulbs and cleaning the lamps and just maintaining this old system. So if you consider all the savings that you're achieving as a municipality through your maintenance cost savings by going towards an LED system, which is much more user-friendly and long life, then you can pay back your refurbishment much quicker if you bring these maintenance cost savings into the EPC contract with you. This is a deep refurbishment of the Red Cross building in the city of Wels. I imagine you have similar organizations, if not the Red Cross, something similar in all of your regions. So this was a building that it was in need of deep renovation. It had very high energy costs. Typical energy refurbishment measures took place. So a lot of thermal insulation on the exterior walls and the basement ceiling, the top floor ceiling. The windows were replaced, the installation of sun shadings, the old fossil fuel heating system was removed and the building was connected to more efficient and cost-efficient district heating. Overall, it was about $500,000 of investments. And the ESCO that participated in this project was the local utility and energy provider called E-Werk Wels. And the condition that the Red Cross had in this case was that the building need to stay open and operational during the entire project so that they could continue, of course, the very important services that they offer the community. And that was achieved, and the building stayed open the whole time. Contract duration of 15 years, and you can see here the amount of electricity costs of this CO2 savings of 54 tons. So this was really a typical deep renovation of a public building using EPC, combined as well with changing of the heating system to district heating. More public buildings, but I enjoy this example because it's the regional government themselves. The regional government of Upper Austria doesn't just support EPC through our program, our regional program, and the financing and the subsidy incentive, but also they use it themselves for their public buildings. And the regional government had a very active and motivated facility manager who decided to go through all of the buildings and to look after all of the easy, low-picking fruit of energy efficiency measures, to look after those himself with his team. And once he had went through the buildings and done all of the low investment measures and everything he could do with his technical team, he took his buildings and presented them to ESCOs and said, let's see how much additional energy savings an ESCO can get for us now. So they actually bundled they have 40 buildings that were involved in these projects. They bundled these buildings into 15 different EPC projects that took place throughout the years. These buildings are administrative buildings, road maintenance buildings, vocational schools, nursing homes, museums. And it's a mix of different implemented measures. So optimization of the heating systems, thermal insulation, conversion of the heating to renewables, and overall 15 projects. It was almost €5 million investments in total. But you see here from quite small projects with an investment of 60,000 up to projects of over $1 million. And this shows that smaller projects and larger projects can both be adapted and implemented using EPC. They also worked with different ESCOs throughout the years. Some names you might obviously recognize, like Cofili or Siemens. And finally, as a last example, this is another type of energy contracting I'd like to shortly present because it's very interesting. It's biomass, it's heat supply contracting. So far we've talked about energy performance contracting, where energy efficiency measures will be implemented, leading to energy savings. But this is a type of energy contracting where an ESCO will install a renewable heating system and will connect it to a building. It can be standalone as a heating project. It can also be combined to other types of energy efficiency measures that are taken, optimization of the system, maybe changing, insulating a building, doing some of those measures as well. But it could also just be like in this case. This is the owner of 2 cinema buildings in Steyr and Wels, who was very interested in heating his cinemas using local sustainable bioenergy. And an ESCO came, and you can see on the second photo here a gray box with 2 white doors. This is an external heating system where wood chip boilers are installed in this external box by the ESCO. The box is then, as an external heating system, it's connected to the cinema building, and the ESCO provides then regional, sustainable, CO2 neutral heat to the building for a contract duration that is fixed between the client and the ESCO. And in this, with this type of project, the owner of the building, who doesn't necessarily have the technical knowledge to optimally run a biomass heating system, they can still benefit from from sustainable and regional heat, because the wood chips are supplied in this case by local farmers who just come and dump the wood chips into the storage container on a weekly basis. The CINEA then has its fixed amount of heat at a fixed price over the contract duration, without having to have the hassle of the operating and tweaking and optimizing the system themselves. So last slide here, after this presentation is really our main takeaways, that EPC is just one range of many possibilities of financing models. It's not appropriate for all projects and for all situations, but it can be used in many situations, and it's quite interesting. It's contracting is a long-term partnership, so there needs to be a lot of trust and openness between the partners. This is really essential. I try to keep in mind that EPC is flexible and can be adapted to your contexts and context and your needs. It's just a way to find out how that can be done. And to get the most benefit from EPC as a client, you need to understand the mechanism well before going into the project. This will also increase your well-being and your confidence in this new type of financing model you're starting to use. And that investing the necessary time in proper project development pays off in the end in your satisfaction and in the success of your project. So we often talk about bundling and doing very big, large EPC projects that are maybe interesting for international and large ESCOs, but keep in mind also that small can also be beautiful. And if you're at the starting of your EPC learning process, we recommend starting with smaller but good quality, well-prepared projects that maybe aren't financially as profitable, but that will permit you to get first projects started and successful projects that increases your confidence and the awareness and knowledge of EPC, and you can move on after that to bigger and better projects. So thank you very much. That was my presentation from Upper Austria.
Thank you very much, Megan. I think you have so many examples of interesting projects that we could really spend another 2 hours learning from this 300 examples. You have underlined it a few times that the homework is so important. And it's also important because it is a partnership, and ESCOs often have to pay the bank back, right? So the least information they have, the higher risk that project would be for them, which means that you as the clients, cities, municipalities might get worse conditions, because then they always factor in the risk into the financial offer they prepare. So that's something to keep in mind. And Megan also underlined the value of facilitation, especially at the early well known in your region or country yet. So this role of advisors who support is very important. And I also love it that in Upper Austria, the regional government sees value in EPC so much that it actually promotes it through some co-financing or some grants, which are, like Megan mentioned, not meant to finance the project, but to show support, and that builds trust from public authorities. What I often also hear, and I think Jolene mentioned the templates, Megan explained why they are not always the best idea. But yes, at the beginning, when public authorities still have no idea how to start, these can help, especially if they are prepared on, let's say, national level, ministry level, because it gives a little bit of security that if there is a problem, it's because the government has not prepared a model contract well. But of course, you have to be very realistic and do your homework to see what will work for you, as Megan explained. I suggest that we now move on to speaking about energy communities, because we are a little bit behind time. Meanwhile, if you have any questions to us, put them in chat and we will follow up with you after the webinar, and we will also share all slides and additional information. Marco, your turn.
Hi everyone, do you see my screen correctly?
Yes, it's perfect.
Good. So today I will talk about the energy communities examples we have in Italy and the ones that we supported in the last couple of years. Bring in one specific case that was the case study for the Prospect Plus second learning cycle where we were involved. EPC are somehow linked, but as a let's say implementation tool for future installation, especially for renewable energy systems. We are already working with the municipalities to set up potential EPC contracts and also to work with them with bundling investments, also with the energy efficiency related activities. So we're trying to have a combination with them, but today I will talk more about how we reached the possibility to have renewable energy communities in Italy, how they works, and the example of San Lazzaro di Savena, which is a medium-sized town beside Bologna, so in Bologna region, Emilia-Romagna region. And we had the chance also to visit the site during the Prospect Plus cycle. So let's see if I can start. Very good. Okay, so the EU legislation behind renewable energy communities started in 2018 with the Renewable Energy Directive, RED II, and the Electricity Market Directive that set up the possibility for having renewable energy communities across Europe. And the concept, most of you might already know it because it's a concept that was invented during the 70s and already probably earlier in some cases, and it was developed in some areas of Europe and not across the continent. So we had the possibility now to start with this concept in other areas. We had a first implementation and trial phase between 2019 and 2020 with the first transposition of the European law, and we set up in Italy some very small energy communities, neighborhood level, with very small renewable energy systems that didn't expand very much because the scope was too narrow and the financial were not very interesting. Then the legislator decided to go for a scaling up process. So we had the possibility to expand the REC perimeter action. So we went from the neighborhood to nowadays the national level. And I will explain later what it means. And also the installed capacity for each power plant was increased from 200 kilowatts to 1 megawatt. So now we are talking about interesting numbers financially as well. So the concept is now spreading. Unfortunately, from 2021, we had to wait until this year to have the final legislative decree and the technical regulation by the national authorities. So as you see, more than 6 years passed from the EU legislation, but eventually we are up and running, and these very days we are activating the first renewable energy communities that we supported in the last couple of years, thanks to a regional action grant. What's an energy community in Italy? Very basic definition. It's a group of energy prosumers, so consumers and producers that collectively share energy locally produced and consumed. In Italy, it's not meant as a peer-to-peer energy transaction, but it's more a virtual calculation that is made by the national authority thanks to the already implemented energy meters that every household, every point, every building connected to the grid have already in place. So the definition is the minimum in each given time, which is the hour, between the renewable energy produced and the energy withdrawn from the grid by all the members of the community. So it's, as I said, it's a virtual concept and not a direct sharing of energy. And it works like this. So there will be a group of members that will produce energy thanks to their, for example, PV systems, and another group of members of the community that withdraw the energy. And the shared energy level is the minimum of the two. Then this amount of kilowatt hour will be multiplied by a coefficient that defines the incentive. So at the moment, the initial scheme in Italy is based on an incentive scheme that reward the fact that under a certain area, within an area of the territory, someone is producing renewable energy, some others are using renewable energy, and they are not overloading the national grid. So this is the basic concept. Then energy communities will be able to do other services in future, but at the moment, this is the basic concept that we have in place. To explain visually, the minimum for an energy community in Italy, you need 2 members, 1 consumer and 1 producer or prosumer that are connected to the grid. And when we have the user A that withdraws energy for example, 10 kilowatt hour from the grid, and the second member, the prosumer, feed 3 kilowatt hour to the grid, we have the shared energy level, which is 3 kilowatt hour. Then if we increase the number of members and we include more prosumers, for example, we still have the member A that withdraw energy for 10 kilowatt hour, and the whole other prosumers inject or feed to the grid 20 kilowatt hours. In that case, the shared energy level is 10 kilowatt hour, the minimum of the 2. And you can easily understand that expanding this concept, we can have a greater amount of energy that is shared and then incentivize itself. Some energy community basics. So the main goal is a direct transposition from the European law, is to provide environmental, economic, or social community benefits for the shareholders and the members and for the local areas, rather than focusing on financial profits. You need to set up a dedicated legal entity. At the moment, we know that with the new electricity market regulation that is being transposed in Italy, there will be the possibility to have informal grouping of members that share benefits. But at the moment, you need to set up an association, cooperative, or foundation, for example, and they need to be based on the EU allowed models. So this is European criteria. Most of the users and prosumers of the grid are allowed. So we could have citizens, NGOs, small medium enterprises, small ESCOs, cooperatives themselves, public entities that could join the scheme. The only one that are not allowed are energy-related companies, so utilities and small medium enterprises that want to do REC management as their main activity. And also we have some collateral members that cannot be full members, such as public enterprises or public related companies. For example, at the moment, we cannot have the local utility directly owned by the municipalities, or we cannot have, for example, the public housing companies that has not been yet cleared if they can be part of this concept. But in general, most of the users can be part of the community. Another important element is that any stakeholder or a member can join and withdraw from the renewable energy community freely anytime, in the same way that you can change your energy provider or anything else. So one technical concept that is quite relevant in Italy is the perimeter of action for an energy community. Here I reported an image where you can see from the national website where you can understand if you are eligible as a member of a specific community. You see some black perimeters, which are the so-called MVHV conventional perimeters. So the medium high voltage transformer action area, where the energy is actually distributed in the local area. Each member needs to be into a specific black perimeters to share the energy with other members of the community. So technically, you see here we have 3 or 4, actually 5 territorial areas that are identified with specific codes. So for example, here we have the case of San Lazzaro di Savena, where you see the black perimeters with 680, 696, 695. And you also see a reddish perimeter, which is the municipality perimeter, that most of the time don't collide with the black perimeters. And to be part of a community, you could be, as a legal entity, big as the whole image, so having more MVHV transformer perimeters, but to share the energy, you need to be inside each perimeter. So for example, we saw before the two households, if they were under the same perimeter, they were actually sharing energy and creating the incentive that I mentioned before. If those two houses were, for example, one in the perimeter 615 and in the other in 680, they would not be able to share the energy and so to have the incentive. But at the same time, when we have different groupings of households and small medium enterprises that are in different groups, in different perimeters, they will create different amounts of incentives, but then all the incentives together will be collected in the same treasury of the association or the foundation. And then the renewable energy community will decide how to use those money. I hope it's clear, but in case we can come back later. How the incentive works. So we have two elements that are in place. The first one on the left is specifically dedicated to the producers. So when there is the household that we saw before that install the PV system, they will have, of course, the direct benefit of the self-consumption. But then when they feed to the grid the energy, they will receive a reward, an incentive that is linked to the current energy price, so the zonal so-called energy price. At the moment in Italy, we have an average of 100 euros per megawatt hour for the energy price when fed to the grid. And then if you are part of a community, when there is someone that withdraw the energy and that energy is also available, the community get an incentive that varies, as you see in the graph. So it depends both on the energy price and also from the size of each PV system, for example, that are installed. So the smaller, the better, to have more incentive in this case. And the lower the energy price, the higher the incentive. So this was made to counterbalance the effects. For example, when we had the Ukrainian war that started, the energy spiked to 500 euros per megawatt hour. So the incentive would have been much lower compared to the current energy prices. We also have some extra contribution, 10 euro per megawatt hour when we are in the north of Italy because of lower solar levels, for example, and also the area contribution itself is to you thanks to not using the grid too much. And the whole package goes from 60 to up to 140 euros per megawatt hour of the incentive. If we go to the case of San Lazzaro, here you see a couple of pictures that we met in July this year. The picture on the left actually shows the first PV system that will be active for the renewable energy community. We install it on an existing library that they have in the municipality. Has a green roof as well, so it was a quite challenging installation, but we expanded the existing PV system from 6 kilowatts to 64 kilowatts. So it was a very interesting upgrade. Here on the left, we have the members of the Prospect Plus initiative in Italy. On the right, we are inside the building and we were running the workshop with some of the founding members of the community itself. So they decided to go for an association-based renewable energy community with 8 founding members, with a relevant role of the municipality, which is putting in place several PV systems in over their buildings, and also some local associations, social associations, and institutional partners that founded this community. Now we are in a phase where probably from early next year, we will do events to expand the community with citizens, small, medium enterprises, and so on. Here you see the distribution of the PV system that we studied during the support period. And we have both prosumers, consumers, and producers only, so the one that only inject the energy to the grid. And this was the work that we did over time. So we studied and modeled different PV systems over the buildings of the municipality. We analyzed the consumptions and considered the energy bills to understand which was the level of shared energy. In that terms, the level of shared energy for the initial case was around 606,000 kilowatt hour per year, with a self-consumption rate of 39%. So this was made possible to share 371,000 kilowatt hour per year. And that was split between the two initial perimeters that we consider. So we have a main one with a very good level of shared energy, almost 69%. And another one was quite far away from the city center, so with a very small, not even 1% of shared energy. So we have potential to have more members there compared to the central area. And here you can see a graph, for example, in January, of course, the PV system produced 10 times lesser or 8 times less compared to the summer. So there is the level of energy share that is not that big. When we are in the summer, we have a very good level of energy sharing and also some extra energy that is anyway sent to the grid. Thanks to their financial resources, the municipality was able already to invest in other projects. So we have 570 kilowatts studied, but then they were already working on other 647 kilowatt on photovoltaic systems. So this was considered for the study, and that was giving a more interesting contributions. And also they are working with more consumers, institutional consumers, that will help increasing the level of shared energy. Here I will show you a few examples on how they work, starting from the San Lazzaro di Savena example, and also a couple of others examples to see the energy and money flow within the concept. So starting from municipal buildings placed on the rooftop, we estimated an initial investment of 1.1 million euros spread among 11 PV systems for a total of 576 kilowatts installed. This amount of money also depends, which is quite higher compared to the normal ratio, because we had to include, the municipality wanted to include PV canopies as well, which in Italy are very expensive compared to the normal PV system on the roofs. So we installed 500, we are planning to install with them 575 kilowatts for a total of 700 megawatt hour per year, which will help the municipality with an interesting rate of self-consumption. So they will save directly 67,000 euros per year, and then they will inject and feed to the grid for 45,000 euros per year. And that will be even without being part of the community. So this is the anti-community scheme. When they will participate to the community, so the community will be fully active, they will contribute together with their other capacity they are going to install for 56% of energy shared. So a total amount of 378,000 kilowatt hour per year, which translate in 52,000 euros of incentive. So this is an extra lump sum that comes every year for the community. So we worked a little bit already on how to redistribute this amount of money, and they initially decided to split like this. So they would like to keep a 10% for the initial and minimal REC management quota, so a little bit more than 5,000 euros to pay literally someone that connect to the National Authority website and manage the communications with them. No extra fancy renewable energy management systems for now, but just to start. And then they decided to split the 40% to the consumers only and social environmental goals that they will define specifically over the year. And this is interesting because, for example, the consumers are not required to invest anything, not even the association yearly quota in this case, and they will just benefit for being part of the scheme without changing even their consumption levels to start. And then the prosumers, so in this case the municipality only, will get the 50% of the benefits, so 26,000 euros. And this is an interesting extra element that comes from the scheme that will help to repay the investment, which is still high because we have a very relevant investment at the very beginning, but this will take down a few years of the payback. And if we will manage to get, for example, an EPC contract with a utility that will exploit the canopies for themselves, and they could keep part of the benefits without charging too much the municipality, we will significantly lower down the payback time. So this is like a medium-sized, around a little bit more than 1 megawatt in the total size for the community. But when we go for other examples, I will share also the smaller example and a very big example. But before that, I would like to link this initiative with the SICAP plans. So in Italy, a lot of municipalities and San Lazzaro have their sustainable energy and climate action plan in place, and renewable energy communities are one of the tools that they are using to implement their actions. So we took the data that was developed a few years ago, so it's still valid, but they take data from 2017. The total energy consumed in the municipality, so private and public consumptions, is around 107 gigawatt hour per year. When we break down and we take into consideration only municipal and residential buildings, so the easiest one to involve in an energy community, we consider around 38 gigawatt hour per year. And if we consider a third of it that can be shared, so can be consumed when renewable energy is available in the grid from the other members, considering only PV systems, that translates in a need for the community of around 10.4 megawatt of PV system in place. So it is a big number, but it's not unreachable. And so we already have planned 1 megawatt, 10 times more. It's an effort, but it's not 100 or 200 times more than we expect. So it is a reachable goal, and we are working with the municipality to scale up and work on schemes that can involve this great amount of renewable energy systems. Going into a smaller example, so we are working a lot with small municipalities that, for example, have less than 5,000 people under their area. And again, the scheme will be very similar, but we consider an example of a small town that is able to install 126 kilowatts spread into 5 small PV systems. And in this case, we have a national scheme that helps small municipalities to invest, and they give a lump sum of related to the 40% as a co-finance scheme. It's not a loan, it's just a lump sum that is given thanks to the Recovery and Resilience Plan, PNRR in Italy. So again, here we have a little less self-consumption, so the municipality will save almost 5,000 euros. Most of the energy is fed to the grid for a benefit of almost 13,000 euros. When participating to a community that shares a good level of energy, so the 60%, we have around 9,500 euros per year of incentive that is then somehow redistributed to the members and a little bit kept for the social environmental goals. So here you see the amounts that are much lower, but again, this helps anyway the municipality to lower their initial costs, and for the first 10, 11 years, they might be able to keep part of this incentive and then give it back, most of it, to the community. So it's a long-term, let's say, social contract that is being established. So everyone agrees that the producer is the one that need to be somehow rewarded the most at the very beginning, also to attract investors and attract producers. But then when the payback time is there and a little bit of extra has been given to the producer, most of the benefits could be kept into the community and increase a lot the quota for social environmental goals, for example. I forgot to mention the scheme in Italy has been activated in April and will be in place for new activation until the end of 2027. But then every PV system or renewable energy system that has been activated will be incentivized for 20 years. So it's a relevant scheme. A lot of similar schemes in Italy had the similar duration, but that's relevant information. So here you see also the importance of having a co-financing scheme, because in most cases, especially when municipalities have to invest and their initial costs are usually higher compared to the normal market prices, because they have extra administrative costs or they need to refer to nationally set prices, having a 40% co-financing support make the case, and not having it sometimes doesn't make the case for investment. So it's a relevant scheme, unfortunately, but we hope will be delayed. The end of this support scheme is set to be in March next year, but we are still setting communities up. So we hope that the national authorities will delay a little bit this deadline. Going with the final example here, we're talking about a bigger municipality where the ESCO is involved. So we are back linking with the EPC scheme. We did a study for a big city in Italy that we studied a total amount of 4.1 megawatts of PV system that could be installed throughout the municipal buildings for a total investment of 6.5 million euros. And you see a different color because we expect that this amount of money are interesting for ESCOs. And also here you see the difference between the revenue stream. So we have a self-consumption rate of 33%. The energy fed to the grid is the 67%. And we have here the direct benefits that mostly go to the ESCO that did the investment. So no money invested from the municipality, but from the private investor. They get both the whole energy revenues for the feed into the grid. So almost 5,000 euros per year. And as you saw before from the EPC schemes, most of the benefit goes to the ESCO for the energy savings. So the 90% of it goes to the ESCO for a total amount of 320 euros per year. Again, these schemes allows the municipality to be part of a community thanks to the private investors' PV systems. And here you see a significantly higher amount of incentives. So here we're talking about almost 250,000 euros of incentive per year. Again, considering a good level of shared energy. So here you need to have a lot of families, quite a good amount of small, medium enterprises that join the scheme. But we assumed with the initial studies that will be a feasible reach. And the redistribution scheme here was, again, 15% for the quota and social environmental goals. Here, take into consideration, we already took out 10,000 euros to run the scheme on a yearly basis, and the rest is distributed. So the consumers will get 20% of the incentive without doing much, not investing and not changing too much their energy consumption attitudes or habits. And then most of the incentive for a certain amount of years will go to the prosumer. So the 80% here will go there. And you see that this allows for a acceptably long payback time, so around 10 years, which is somehow the threshold for ESCOs to be part of these schemes. And we have still a direct benefit for the municipality on the direct investments and the direct self-consumption of 10% that they wouldn't have without this scheme. As I mentioned before, the link of these initiatives with other broader initiatives like for example, energy retrofit of these 48 buildings makes even more the case for a PV installation. And when we see, for example, we studied a bundle investment around 30 million euros of energy retrofit, including PV. We are pushing the market to offer some benefits for winning the contract, and a lot of municipalities are now looking at giving the preferable choice of benefits to having free PV systems from the ESCO that provided the offer in order to win the contract, rather than other measures like, I don't know, maintenance costs reduced or other elements of the usual contract. So there is a push for having somehow free PV systems, and this will help again the overall scheme. So we are starting to see that here the scheme, of course, is based on the bigger the better, but at the same time there is the need to keep a balance on the territorial level, because people feel part of a community when they are somehow in a certain area. They don't like a lot at the moment. We're seeing regional scale communities or national level communities because they perceive it closer to a national utility rather than an energy community. So we're seeing that the city level or the territorial areas of few municipalities that are, for example, unions of municipalities, it's quite acceptable and they are very interested to join. That's on the field feedback from the first year of events on the ground. I would like to share also the results of our support scheme that we set up in the last couple of years.
I hate to interrupt, but we are running behind time. So maybe if you could quickly finalize, and I feel that we have to organize a second meeting to follow up on all of this.
No, I will continue just quickly. We helped to set up 26 applications first, and then 15 energy communities in our area. Most of them went through associations scheme, not many cooperatives, which are run by privates. And our, let's say, impacts were quite interesting. We somehow are going to help to create 410,000 euros per year of incentives thanks to this scheme that will help communities to set up their projects. And just a quick run on the takeaways. So we saw that the first element is the buy-in on these schemes, and I already mentioned the level of the community that is suitable for having members, so not too big, but not even too small. We are working a lot on the governance level, so there are communities that would prefer a more top-down approach and just joining the scheme with some benefits, and some others that want to build up from scratch the governance and run it in a closer to cooperative model. The business plans, we will probably join the new energy community facility scheme to help building up the business plans of these communities, and we have still uncertainties of the REC management costs in the long run, and if there will be a burden for the expansion. Again, direct investment versus third-party investment are relevant elements, and not many municipalities have the possibility to directly invest like San Lazzaro di Savena. And In Italy, we have two elements of critical elements are the installation and authorization periods. So the grid is quite congested at the moment, and the national authorities don't allow to install many PV systems in some areas. And also, we are still facing a lot of administrative challenges for public entities linked to the national laws, and we are working a lot to with the national authorities to solve these issues. Thank you very much, and these are my contacts if you need any more information.
Thank you very much, Marco, and thank you for sharing so many details, very practical and very, very concrete details of the benefits and the examples of what can be expected. I feel that we might try to organize a follow-up call under our community of practice if you find the time, because I think there is a lot of information that we could dig deeper into. So for now, I would like to thank all our speakers very much. It's always a pleasure to learn from you and to hear about your projects. And for everyone, I encourage you very much as well to join our policy dialogue and tell us what you actually think about the instruments that Miguel, Megan, and Marco presented, because of course there might be different legislative conditions, there might be different context in your countries, in your regions. We want to learn about that. Marco mentioned that there are still some legislative barriers that they are working on addressing as well. This is what we want to help with. So please do provide your feedback, and I will also separately send you information about our community of practice, where you can access recordings of our previous webinars, and you can join meetings which are for members only. They are not open to everyone, and we invite you to let us know what has been most interesting for you. If you have any questions, keep putting them in the chat, send them by email, and we will do our best to reply and to get you more information as soon as possible. We will write up this meeting, we will share the recording and the presentations, and we will publish a summary of what our fantastic speakers have discussed today on our website and on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. Have a nice lunch break, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.